only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to 612 Vikings. As you guys can see on the YouTube channel, we got a third guest. But before we get to them, it's me and it's Drew. And then we got our friend Nick. Drew, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. OTAs, another OTA practice in the books. So just kind of seeing and assessing the roster from there and getting ready for, mini camp next week. So just counting down the days and watching the NFL offseason progress part of the regular season.
Yeah, that's right. And then as you guys can see on the YouTube audience, we got a third screen over there. We got our friend Nick, aka Grizzy, on TikTok. Introduce yourself for the people that don't know you. Plug your TikTok.
I can talk now.
Oh yeah, you can talk.
All right, yeah. My TikTok is Grizzy Shoe. That's SHU and Shoe. I'm a Vikings fan and I like wrestling.
There you got it.
No.
Go follow him on TikTok. He will appreciate it. He'll follow you back for sure. But today we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the Minnesota Vikings and why we all think that the Minnesota Vikings are gonna win the NFC North, at least. Maybe the NFC later, but the NFC North right now. So, Drew, if you want to kick us off with reason number one, or however you want to start this, we all think that the Vikings are going to win the NFC North, right? I mean, it's the Lions' division to lose, but with other coordinators leaving and then so much turnover too, I think it's the Vikings' division to lose. But Drew, kick us off on this one.
Yeah, so let's start with the bottom feeders of the division. You have the Chicago Bears. For me, I look at them. I think they're making progress from no longer being a bottom feeder in this division. However, there's still some question marks that I still want to see because the Bears' problem has been rinsing and repeating the same issues they've had the last 10 years. So the last time they won a playoff game was in 2010, and they still haven't learned that you can't draft a rookie quarterback, fire the head coach after their rookie season, then hire a new guy, and then throw a whole new scheme in their face. So maybe third time's the charm with them, with a guy like Ben Johnson. I do like Ben Johnson as a coach, tactical guy, with the X's and O's. But for me, it really remains seeing how he can really lead a locker room and just kind of lead a guy who, we kind of see. I really didn't want to be in Chicago being drafted, so maybe things can change with Johnson. They had some weapons, but I still have some questions on their O-line that I still want to see all be put together. I do like the Joe Thuney pick up a lot. But he's only got a few years left in him, after he just signed a big contract extension. I do like Darnell Wright. Seems like he's really starting to come into his own. But I'm still having questions on Jonah Jackson and Braxton Jones or whoever their left tackle might be. So that's just my main question marks. The reason why, just because I want to see Caleb. I want to see him play a little bit more in structure, kind of similar to what Jared Goff can. Because, when there's a time where you can put the YouTube highlight play out there, you can do that. We all know that. But we really saw him struggle when we had to ask him to go on a 3-step drop and hit a target on the first or second read. So that's really what I want to see out of them. I don't think that they will. I just don't think it's their time quite yet. I think that maybe they're about a year or two away before they can really compete for this division.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like, I could see the Bears finishing, maybe highest second. That's if they really wow us. That would have to be a lot, though. There's a lot of moving parts where the Lions would have to take a step down. The Packers would have to take a step down. Possibly even the Vikings, depending on how you look at these NFC North standings. But, Nick, how do we feel about the Packers? I know they probably aren't the favorite to win the NFC North. They're probably, third odds to win that throughout the whole division. So, Nick, what's your take on the Packers? Like, I don't think that they're going to win the division.
No, I definitely wouldn't say that the Packers are going to win the division. I'm not going to rule it out. Jordan Love, he's not a horrible quarterback. I know I might talk some trash about him sometimes, but that's just, because he's a Packer. Nobody really likes the Packers. I just don't. I said this to Drew a couple days ago. I don't think I even brought it up to you, Dustin, but I just don't think Jordan Love is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think that, yes, he's going to be an average quarterback in the NFL. He might be a top 10 quarterback at one point, but I just don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl under him. But with how good the NFC North is right now, I just don't see them winning the division this year. I think it's going to be like it was last year. It's going to be between the Vikings and the Lions, and just depending on how well J.J. McCarthy pans out, I think that's definitely what it's going to come down to.
Okay, so I'll ask you guys both this, whoever wants to answer. What would it take for the Green Bay Packers to win the division?
Yeah, for me, what I'm going to be looking for is I want to see a consistent Jordan Love, because we've seen this Jekyll and Hyde Jordan Love ever since he took over from Aaron Rodgers, where his first year he started off super duper slow, and then he really picked it up, and they snuck in a playoff win over the Dallas Cowboys. And then the beginning of the season, he got he was doing okay against Philly, got hurt. Maybe the knee thing was an issue, but I mean, my thing is, like, if you're able to play and they're okaying you to go out there, be okay, you should still produce. So, but even like after, like at the end of the season, you saw like this, he'd have a 3 touchdown game, no picks, and it's looking like he's a great quarterback. But then the next game, he's throwing 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions or 4 interceptions. So, for me, it seems very similar to Nick Mullins, like what we saw in Chicago, where he'll throw the ball all over the yard, but he just can't stop with the interceptions and the turnovers, especially in critical downs. So, I think for me, that's like the one thing I want to see if I'm a Packers fan, for them to win the division. And then I think the second one being is I want to see, they did make very little moves in free agency. The big one is going to be Aaron Banks. I want to see him really produce at that.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Overpaid.
I want to see, they definitely overpaid him, in my opinion. But, he's a top 5 guard in the league. He's going to have to play like a top 5 guard. So I think that's another thing you're going to have to look for. And then I think the last thing is going to be the receivers. Can we get a little bit more consistency? Can Jaden Reed hold on to the ball a little bit more? Can Matthew Golden be that guy? It seems like to me he might have been a one-year wonder. Never really had that 1,000-yard season at Texas. He is blazing fast. So I think that there just has to be some sort of separation in that wide receiver room. It's just a room full of wide receiver 2s and 3s, and they just don't have that alpha dog at wide receiver since they've traded Davante Adams to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if I could piggyback off of what Drew said, I think a lot of it is going to be how their receivers play. They got two good tight ends in Tucker Kraft and
Luke Musgrave.
2 good tight ends, 2 good security blankets for Love. I'm pretty sure he likes throwing to his tight ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you still got a probably top 5 running back in Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like Drew said, like, I know a lot of Packers fans say, oh, we got 3 wide receiver 1s. Well, you don't really have a wide receiver 1. Like Drew said, you have a bunch of 2s and 3s, and, that might be good enough to get a playoff berth and win a playoff game like they did against Dallas. But I'm not scared of playing the Packers. When we're playing against the Packers, I'm not saying, oh, no, we're playing against Jordy Nelson. Oh, no, we're playing against Davante Adams. No, we're like, we're going against Christian Watson. We're going against Jaden Reed's a pretty good player, but he's no Davante Adams. He's no wide receiver 1, in my opinion. He's no even like, I don't know if anyone on the Packers is better than Jordan Addison. Might be a hot take, but
hot takes.
Hot takes. That's money. I don't know what the hell that was, but no, I definitely do want to see what Matthew Golden's going to do. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be that good because he's wearing an ugly number. You can't wear an ugly number and look good.
Dude's got to change that.
Yeah. He's got to change that.
He's like Sky Moore wannabe.
Yeah.
I don't know, Drew. I don't know. I could kind of see Matthew Golden being kind of like, maybe it's because they both wore the same number. I think Golden wore 22 in college, right?
He wore number 2 at college.
Whatever. He just reminds me of Raheed Shaheed. I don't know why, but he does.
It's actually not a bad comparison. Like, he is a speed guy like Shaheed. I think Shaheed's a little bit faster, but I think after that ACL tear, he might be somewhat comparable. But Shaheed does have more value on special teams than Golden does. But that is actually a pretty good comparison on what you can expect from Golden if you're a Packer. But, like I said, there just isn't a guy on Green Bay. You look at the roster, and there's just that superstar X factor that you're just terrified to play for or play against. So, like with the Vikings, they've got Justin Jefferson. By far, he's probably the best player in this division. And then you go to Detroit, you got to go and play Jameer Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson. So those are a couple guys there. And then I know the Bears really don't have that guy either, but I just feel like these 2 teams, the Packers and Bears, are just kind of the 2 bottom teams in this division because they just don't have that guy that can be a game changer in this. Things can obviously change, but I just don't think they have that game changer quite yet.
Yeah, what I was gonna to add on to that, like, is it even crazy to say I'm more scared to play Jalen Johnson than Jair Alexander? Like, I don't think that's really that crazy to say.
No, I don't.
You got to hope that Jair plays. That's the thing.
Yeah, he Jair is the type of player, like, since that whole game, what was it, in 2022, where he talked the trash, and that's the last time Jair really played a very good game against the Packers, or against the Vikings for the Packers. So, but I think the only time he played against the Vikings was when Jordan Addison just ran circles all around him. I think he had like 2 touchdowns. So, it just seems like Jordan Addison really just has the Packers number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
call it JJ Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. But I'll structure the next 2 questions like I did with the Packers one. But for the Lions, what would the Lions have to do to win the division? I mean, they're the reigning NFC North champs for the 2nd year in a row, which is still weird to say. I don't know. I'll always bring that up because Lions NFC North champs just does not have a ring to it. But I don't know. The Lions, it's their division to lose. It's, I don't know, a lot of turnover. Coaches, players, players coming up on contract years. Their contract situation is kind of looking murky the next couple of years. But we're looking into this year. What are we thinking about the Lions? What would they have to do to maintain a three-peat for the NFC North division title?
Yeah, so I think the main thing you got to look for is their interior O-line. I think the Frank Ragnow retiring really just surprised a lot of people. When you up and retire before 30, I don't know all too much about that. It's just the 3rd time it's happened there. All pro players are retired before 30 in the last 30 years. So I think it's a big concern. I don't think it's easy to sugarcoat because when Frank Ragnow is off the field, the Lions O-line struggles. He's the quarterback for that O-line. He's one of the few centers that does not need any sort of guard help. He can hold his own and anchor down the fort in the interior. He's just that type of player. He's that good. So without that being there, you have potentially Graham Glasgow, who's by far the worst offensive lineman on that team. I think he's a turnstile. I kind of compare him more to Garrett Bradbury. He just has no anchor. He can run block somewhat, but he just isn't a guy that if you're going to drop back and pass, especially with Jared Goff there, a lot of interior pressure. That is something to really worry about. And aren't any big centers out there that are available via trade. It's even after the draft that you could have said, oh, yeah, this guy's for sure the guy. So, and then you also have Christian Mahogany. I think it was a 6th-round pick. I am like more of that 3rd or 4th-round talent. Thought it was 6th round because of the injury concerns. But I think Mahogany could be good, but he only had 1 good game. So it's really hard to see what he can do at the NFL level just with those limited sample size there. And then Tate Ratledge, too. I think there's just too many question marks on that interior with the statue, pocket passing quarterback. So I think that's really what you have to watch for on the offensive side. And the defensive side is just they have to stay healthy. I think Aiden Hutchinson coming back helps a lot. They got, Terrion Arnold in year 2 for a corner. That potentially could be something there. But when you're missing a Lee McNeil until Thanksgiving, when you're missing Malcolm Rodriguez until Thanksgiving, that's really hard. So I just don't know if they're going to have that nastiness like they've had the last 2 years. I think they just have a lot of depth concerns where you look at the Vikings. The Vikings team is a team I feel like they built this team through free agency to beat a team like the Lions. They feel what they've done. They want nastiness. They want to get that power, that the anger and aggression that the Lions have built. And now that the Lions have taken a step back there, I would definitely have some concerns, when the Vikings look at them and what they've added on their interior. So I think those are just my main concerns when I look at Detroit. But like you said, it's Detroit still to lose until someone can dethrone them. It's still their division. So that's kind of how the mentality should be when you go into this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think that if you're Detroit, you got to sit down, get on your knees, and pray that Jonathan Allen, Kenny Clark, and Grady Jarrett forgot how to play football. I think that's what you got to do, or else it's gonna be a bloodbath for Jared Goff. I think you're praying that whoever comes in and plays center is even half the man that Frank Ragnow was. Or else it's going to be bad for them, I think, when you're going up against 3 teams in your division specifically that have elite defensive lines. Yeah. I mean, you got the Packers with Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark, and then you got Grady Jarrett and stuff.
And Montez Sweat. Yeah,
nobody cares. The Bears suck. But I mean, just the Lions just went from having the best line in football to not having the best line in football, pretty
I
much, with
mean,
just one man retiring.
you
And
also lose Kevin Zeitler too.
you
Yeah.
also lose Kevin Zeitler, too. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, you still have Tristan Wirfs and you have um, whatever his name is. I know the tackle.
Taylor Decker and Sewell over there.
They still have a top five tackle duo behind Darisaw and O'Neal, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I just have to agree with Drew here on the defensive thing too. You just got to stay healthy, and you kind of
Yeah,
just
you
have to
can't have
have
a
that.
situation like last year. You know.
You got to have that Detroit energy where you just go in and you just don't care. You just want to like just. I'm not gonna say that. Yeah. You just want to hurt somebody. I'll say that.
Run through a brick wall.
Body over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last team, which the team that's probably the most unlikely to win the division, unless they surprise us, like I said earlier in the episode. But that is the Chicago Bears. Drew's territory right now, near Chicago or in Chicago. So, what will it take for the Chicago Bears to win the division in 2025? And don't say that the Vikings, Lions, and Packers have to go 0-16.
No,
Because that's the easiest way.
0-17.
It won't be anything like that. But I think if you're a Bears fan, I think we kind of going back to what we said is, we have some concerns with a line play. I know I mentioned that I like the Tooney signings. I like that Darnell Wright's really taking that next step, but I still have concerns about Jonah Jackson if he can stay healthy. He really hasn't had that great season since he's left Detroit. But I think for them to win the division, Caleb Williams is going to have to prove he's a top 5 quarterback in this league. A guy that can just take over a game and be that X factor for your team. And if he can do that, then I think they've got a real good shot. I think they can go and win 11, 12 games if Caleb Williams is that type of quarterback. And that's the main thing is, can he? Because I don't know if he hasn't proven it to me. He's shown flashes, but every rookie quarterback shows flashes. Even J.J. McCarthy, who has yet to take a regular season passing snap, has shown flashes in preseason against the Raiders once. So I think that's really the only thing I look at. And then they have to be healthy on that secondary, because when Brisker's out, those kind of players, that a big safety like that, it definitely takes that defense back a little bit. Remove that box safety, and a team that is going to run the ball a lot with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. If you lose Brisker, that's going to be a huge blow. So he's back and healthy, but I think that's the two main things that I would look for is Caleb Williams has to be that X factor, generational quarterback that the scouts have claimed to be. So that's the main thing I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, I think the easiest way would just to be to load up Madden, play on rookie mode, put it on put it on arcade mode, rookie mode, and then just go 17-0 that way. But no, I agree with that. I just think Caleb Williams really needs to take it to the next level and needs to do more than just sit on the sideline and paint his nails. I think he needs to play football, what he's supposed to do. But seriously, yeah, I mean, you're playing in one of the toughest divisions in football. The Chicago Bears, they're probably going to finish last in the division. I'm sorry to the Bears fans. It's not like I hate the Bears. I hate the Packers more than I hate the Bears. But out of all the teams in that division, the Bears definitely have the worst on paper roster. But like you said, I mean, the Bears could end up going and getting 11 to 12 wins. But funny thing is, the Bears could get 11 wins and still be last in the division. I mean, that could happen hypothetically, but
it could. It'd be pretty hard to do, but it could happen. I mean, like you said,
it'd be a Bears thing to happen, though.
It would be a Bears thing to happen.
I mean, let's be real though. Last year, the Packers go 12-5. They're a blocked field goal away from being 11-6, but losing all 6 games in the division. So it's definitely something that could definitely happen. But I think the main thing is just there's steps to this. I don't think that Ben Johnson hasn't proven to be a coach like Andy Reid, where he can go into the worst team, flip them, and then make them a division winner in 1 year. That's just, I don't see that happening. No matter how many people you're going to throw out there, he's going to go through some growing pains. Kevin O'Connell went through his growing pains. Sean McVay went through some growing pains as a coach. There's just certain things that you're going to pick up that you're going to be like, oh, well, I don't know what to do in this situation, or maybe I should. There's a lot of second guessing because there's a lot of cameras and lights on you because you're the new head coach. There's a lot of excitement. I get that, but there's just we have yet to see it. So I just think for me, there's steps to this. I just don't see it happening where you step in day one and just completely mirror your record and go and win 12 games after going 5-12.
No,
Now,
and like I said, sorry to cut you off, Dustin.
Yeah,
I just
cut me
wanted to
off
get
one more
this in.
time.
I just wanted to get this off real quick. Just what Drew said about having all the cameras and lights on you, especially when you're getting paired up with a quarterback that just went number 1 overall, and people say have the makings of being the next guy in Caleb Williams. Obviously, that puts a lot more pressure on you. And, everybody can't be the quarterback whisperer like KOC. But, I mean, I'd love to see what Ben Johnson could do with a guy like Caleb Williams.
Yeah, on that note, one last thing about the Bears too. Their wide receiver corps. I don't know how you guys feel about them, but I feel like it's a good group. It just doesn't scare me. Like Caleb Williams can work with it. There's just not a clear cut like number 1 receiver. I mean, DJ Moore's their number 1, but he doesn't scare me as a number 1. Someone that you can reliably go to all the time. But yeah, what do you guys think about the Bears wide receiver room right now?
I think they addressed their weaknesses, but I understand what they're doing. They want to do the same thing the Vikings are doing. They want to surround their quarterback with the best weapons possible. So you go a younger version of Keenan Allen by drafting Luther Burden. I have a lot of red flags with him. He never had the double-digit touchdown season at Missouri. He had the 1,200-yard season his sophomore year, which is great. He had a great season. But to go from 1,200 yards and cut those numbers in half is a very big red flag for me because it's not like he was hurt all that much, and he was playing a lot of games. And a lot of the numbers you look at, a lot of those numbers are stat padded against the really bad teams. Those little cupcake teams you play at the beginning of the year, like Southwest Ferris State University or whatever it would be. That's kind of who he's beating up on and inflating those numbers by getting those 200, 300-yard games. So I think there are some red flags with him. I think he's an okay player. I could see what they're saying, that he could look like James Williams, but I just don't think either of them are really that talented of wide receivers compared to other ones we've seen in the league. The one that can be, I don't see that happening with them. And then on the other side, you have your big wide receiver Roma Dunze. He just was. I feel like he was just a guy who would just run out there and he'd make some plays, but not anything where it was highlight worthy play like a Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas, like a guy that could be a game changer day one. And I even felt like you saw that more with Marvin Harrison Jr. Like you see the flashes there. It's just they have to get the ball. And I just don't think Roma Dunze was really given that chance. I don't know if it's that or if he's not that guy at the wide receiver position. So I just feel like with last year's, the 2 years ago's class with the wide receivers, I feel like one of those three had to be the disappointment. I think it might be Roma Dunze, just because I think there's so much wealth to be distributed amongst that offense, especially after drafting Colston Loveland. So that I have some concerns with it, but I think that if they can really buckle down and share the wealth, make things easier for Caleb, they definitely could make a solid run for a playoff run. So I think that's honestly what my goal should be if I'm a Bears fan, is just try to be in the inside of the playoffs, whether that's like a 6 or 7 seed. But I don't think I think it's unrealistic to say we're going to win it.
Yeah, they're definitely fueling up for Caleb Williams. They're definitely fueling up that offense for him. But one thing, Drew, I don't think they yes, they got another good wide receiver. That's cool. But I mean, you pick up Colston Loveland when you already have a guy like
Cole
Kmet, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, my guy. I think Cole Kmet is a serviceable tight end. And, I mean, how much help does Caleb Williams really need? I mean, where's the running back help? Oh, we're going to sign Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is not what he used to be. Nick Chubb probably has another year in him, and then he's probably going to retire, in my opinion. Maybe 2 years. I'm just surprised that they didn't draft a running back, and instead they went to booster up the positions that they already had pretty well figured out. I mean, like I said, it's cool to have Burden as a 3, but would you rather have Burden as a 3, or would you rather have DeAndre Swift being your running back?
Yeah, honestly, there's so many other guys in this class you look at. There's Kyle Williams, there's Pat Bryant, Ty Felton, those kinds of receivers you could have gotten later on. I think Trayvon Henderson went like 1 pick before the Bears, but Quinshon Judkins, I think, was still on the board, if I'm not mistaken. So there was definitely guys they could have taken. Even if it's a trade back to go and look at a Cam Scattaboo in the third, I mean, that would have been a guy who I think would have paired up really good with DeAndre Swift. You would have had that thunder and lightning kind of combo, similar to what they had in Detroit, where Scattaboo's more that David Montgomery, Jamal Williams kind of back, where DeAndre Swift be not the speedster like Gibbs is, but more that elusive one-cut back that he was in Detroit. So I thought that's really the route they were going to go, and they just didn't. So that was really like my surprise. They just didn't address the right game. It's going to have to all be on Caleb. Like, this is the year. If he doesn't show any sort of life where he's throwing 30-plus touchdowns this year, I think it's time to start having some conversations about what they really have in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't cut him off after 1 or 2 years. I mean, once you get to that third year, if he really starts to then I think that's when you start making hey, when that 5th-year option starts coming up, do we pick it up? Do we let him walk?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm just saying we can write off the generational talent label on Caleb Williams. Like, this is going to be who he is.
Well, we know he's not a bust. He didn't come from Ohio State as a quarterback.
All right.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing before we hop off here for tonight. For the Vikings, kind of looking at yourselves in the mirror for the Minnesota Vikings, what is one thing that you're maybe really excited about, building on for the future? Or what is one thing that you could improve on? What's one spot that you're okay, we could probably add, maybe a player or two or change something about this. How do the Vikings probably perceive themselves looking at themselves so that way they can win their own division?
Yeah, I know everyone's going to point to the quarterback because that's the biggest question mark. But my line of thinking is I don't think J.J. McCarthy has to be the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows year one for them to go and make a playoff run. I think he really just has to be Brock Purdy. I do think the Vikings have the talent and the foundation and the coaching staff to go and win 12 games by just handing the ball off like Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo did for so many years. And that's just the minimum that we're expecting from him. So I think compared to the other teams in the league or in this division, the Vikings have the best coaching staff in this division, and I don't think it's particularly close. The Lions have so much turnover. Packers are not there yet, and definitely the Bears that we don't really know their big mystery. So I think going into the season, you have the best, head coach, coordinator combo in the league, if not they're number 2 behind Kansas City. So I think the only thing I would really want to watch for is really the corners. I think that's the big thing I want to look at. I was kind of surprised they didn't address it in the draft, but I think they're putting their stock in Isaiah Rodgers to be that guy. Mekhi Blackman's getting back, so that'll help with some versatility there, and you have Byron Murphy. But I think that's just the big thing with me is just kind of I wanted to see maybe another corner just to really build off of in the future. I was really hoping Siobhan Revel was going to fall in the third, and we could have stacked it. Because that would have been a nice little redshirt year for him, especially after he tore his ACL prior. So I think I just would like some more defensive back depth outside of just maybe if it's in the safety room too. Maybe past Metellus, Jackson, and Harrison Smith. And if Theo Jackson can be the guy, that's great. But, I think that's just something I would want to watch is just how the defensive backs play.
Yeah, Nick, anything that you like or dislike about the Vikings?
I was going to say the same thing as Drew. I mean, he said corners, so I was going to say just defensive backs as a whole. But obviously he got into it, stole that right from underneath me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would just say defensive backs. I mean, you're kind of just going to rely on Theo Jackson to play free safety. You got my man Harrison Smith, who's 40 years old, probably soon to turn 50, it seems like. He's going to be probably gone after this season. This is probably his final rodeo. It'd be nice if he went out in a Super Bowl win, not counting it out, but I don't think it'll be this year for a Super Bowl. So, I mean, if we're looking into the future, I definitely think next year's free agency class, next year's draft class, the Vikings are probably going to look a lot into defensive backs. Because, I mean, you just picked up pretty much, you revamped your whole offensive line. Donovan Jackson's, 20? Obviously, you just drafted him. Darrisaw's still young. Even Will Fries is still young. Same with the other guy we signed. I forgot his name. Ryan Kelly. He's not young, but he's young enough to play another 3 years, maybe.
I'd probably max.
Maybe you want to look into getting another backup tight end, maybe. But we did just draft someone.
Yeah,
But
Bartholomew.
I mean, if you look at this team, I mean, just you can't really point out many negatives.
Yeah.
I mean, you go, oh, running back depth. Well, we have Jordan Mason and Jones. Oh, wide receivers. Oh, we have Rondo Moore, Tate Felton, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Tight ends, we have Josh Oliver, TJ Hawkinson. Defensive line is probably one of our most stacked depth positions on the team.
Yeah.
But like I said, I guess if you're looking at anything to upgrade, I would probably just aim at defensive back.
Yeah. Like I said, I think you nailed it because for me, it really took a lot of thinking. I'm like, okay, what's something that we could just point out that like you look at and just like there's just absolutely not really a lot of big holes. I think honestly, the defensive back room is probably it because I think they're probably in the top. I think if they can finish top 16 in the league, and that's kind of where I have them is just kind of middle of the pack in defensive backs. That's pretty freaking good going into this year. So with JJ McCarthy, I think that's the big thing too with the quarterback. So I just don't think he's a guy that you look at. I don't think he's going to step in like Anthony Richardson, throw like 40% for completions and like 7 picks and tap his helmet and call it quits on the field. So I think he's got that leader, that alpha personality, that dog personality that you really don't see a lot in this past quarterback class. I think Jaden Daniels is one. I think Drake May has it a little bit, but still yet, jury's still out on him. Michael Penix, jury's still out. So I just don't think I think he's just the guy that has the best leadership qualities in this entire class. So I think that speaks a lot. I think that's going to carry over the field, and I think it's going to result to a lot of wins.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Vikings really have no excuses to not perform well throughout the whole season and possibly flirt with the playoffs, play in the playoffs, and compete for a Super Bowl. Outside of defensive back as a group, that's really the only glare that I really see. So with that said, the Vikings are going to keep it competitive. There's really no excuses, like I said. So on that note, we're going to end it on that. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Skol Vikes.